A key pillar to Western history is the belief in God, and particularly the Judeo-Christian worldview. Movements such as the Renaissance in Europe helped the West find a delicate balance between religious belief and scientific advancement, which helped Europe become the hub of progress and prosperity. In the West, religious belief, and specifically Christianity, has been in steady decline. In this video, I will be unpacking why the West has been steering away from Christianity. For the purposes of this video, I will be focusing on the religious demographics of Europe and the United States. I hope you enjoy it, and you're watching All Things Humanities. Before talking about the decline of religion, we need to understand what religion and religious belief is. While there isn't a universal definition of it, we can understand it as a belief system that expresses desired practice, beliefs, ethics, and texts that relate to the supernatural and the transcendental. The United States of America, since its inception, has been a bastion for Christian belief. God is mentioned in both the Declaration of Independence and is in America's Pledge of Allegiance. Religious affiliation, church attendance, and belief in God have all fallen in the US. As new children are born, more and more are skeptical of God and no longer identify themselves as Christians. Children are raised by parents who are less religious than their parents were, and as a result, the culture is becoming more and more secular with the passing of each generation. While America has high levels of religious participation in comparison to the rest of the West, it is in long-term decline. But as we like to ask on this channel, why is this happening? Ever since the Age of Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution, Westerners have been increasingly skeptical of religious institutions and religious power. Take the Reformation, for example, where the Protestant movement was brought out of the corruption from the Western Church, telling its followers that if enough money was given to the institution, the recently deceased souls would definitely travel to heaven in the afterlife. This brings us to the first major reason for Christianity's decline in the West, as the trends of modern European socio-political and cultural transformation actually destabilized the traditional cultural, social, political, and theological frameworks of Christianity. The Enlightenment forces of rationalization and disenchantment, which actually have roots in Protestantism, were the driving force of modern secularization. For example, Protestantism challenged the established idea that the Eucharist was truly the body and blood of Christ. In the eyes of the Protestants, this was merely a symbol of Christ entering the human, but now, because of rationalization and science, we've shaped our opinions and disenchanted this part of religious practice. The rationalization and disenchantment of Christianity had an impact on the totality of human life, including its cultural, philosophical, legal, and scientific aspects, as they were no longer understood in terms of religious content. For example, if you are sick with some sort of illness, you don't see a shaman, a priest, or a witch doctor for them to pray for you or use some sort of magic, but instead you will see a doctor whose practice is underpinned by science. This is because of the disenchantment and rationalization that the Enlightenment brought us. In the end, these realms of life slowly established themselves as autonomous areas without a necessary reference to religion. Religion is no longer important. Rationalization and the Age of Enlightenment question the legitimacy of religion, and societies have attempted to understand natural phenomenon without any consideration of the supernatural. The cultural and moral transformation of the West has definitely affected the transition from obligatory church attendance to the voluntary framework in the second half of the 20th century. The church has become less and less significant in the modern world for providing the framework for ethics and values. Instead, Western societies have attempted to do this on their own and refer to Enlightenment principles to determine their worldviews. Take what's happening with Roe v. Wade at the moment. Our understanding of abortion is dependent on concepts of when life begins and the rights of women to choose. Without this cultural change, religious doctrine would easily determine how we should respond to the morality and legality of abortion. In other words, we can look to religion and religious texts for the answers. Another key event that sped up secularization in the West was the Second World War. World War II saw the rise of fascism, which was very contradictory to the ideas of individualization from the Age of Enlightenment. The end of the Second World War saw the development of the liberal world order and progressivism because the world did not want to repeat the same mistakes as it did in its past. The shift towards liberalism superimposed a move away from traditional religious structures and worldviews. Human beings were encouraged to think for themselves and the world that they wanted to live in, and not to be associated with these structures. In other words, authoritative figures like Mussolini and Hitler were seen as authorities on how to live, and people viewed the church in the exact same way. A byproduct of this revolution is that people will say they are spiritual but not religious, so they do not affiliate with traditional religious structures. The last major reason for the decline of Christianity in the West is due to economic development and prosperity. Through the production and distribution of goods, the good economy contributes significantly to the sense of fulfillment in life, and thus gives meaning to it. Perhaps some of these needs may not have been met by Christianity in previous generations, and instead there has been a growing focus on economic growth and wealth as a source of meaning. Do we know if this worldview makes sense, that the enlightenment and rationalization of the West is the right way we should live? We don't know, but these are more than likely the best reasons as to why Christianity has declined in the West. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to press that like and subscribe button, it really helps me out.